Hey guys, welcome back. We have an energy report, two ways to get into today. On one hand, we're gonna just take a look at the energy as we hit the midpoint of our week this week. What do we have going on out there? On the other hand, it is January 1st, so we are talking about New Year's Day, and when we're dealing with astrology, when we are looking at energy for a specific date, point, moment in time that relates to some larger span of time, we can get an idea about what might be unfolding through that larger span of time by focusing in on what is happening at that specific point in time. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is today is also going to be a bit of a forecast look ahead into 2025, the year itself, what themes could be highlighted throughout the course of this year, and of course also are highlighted in the energy of the day itself. So we've got a lot to talk about today, you guys. Let's get into our report of the day and the year, and see if we can get an idea of what the future has in store for us as we move into 2025. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Wednesday, January 1st, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day and of the year, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. In this video, we're going to talk about the energy that we have going on for today, January 1st, how that might be impacting just the energy field generally as we move through this week, but also how it could be impacting what we interface with, what we experience, and the general vibe of things throughout the course of this 2025 year. So we've got a lot to talk about in this reading. I was like going back and forth as I was preparing for the report today about the order that I wanted to do things, because I have like a whole written summary that I put together earlier today just based on kind of the way the energy hit me when I looked at the chart. And so I want to go through all that, but I also want to let you guys know all of the transits and the aspects, degree placements and symbolism and stuff like that, where I am drawing the information from that I'm going to be telling you in my summary. So I was like, do I want to do the aspects first or do I want to do the summary first? And I have settled on I'm going to start actually and just describe the energy, the themes, what we may be working with as we move through this year. And then if you want to stick with me until the end, I will go through more of the intricate details of this and explain how the specific transits that we have present out there connect, like what they are, what the placements, transits, aspects and stuff are, and the symbolism as well, and then how of course that connects to the analysis that I'm going to present in the beginning. So that is my rundown for what's going to go on in this video today. So thank you guys for being here. Let's take a look. First of all, one of the main themes, I think the primary theme I would say that I want to title, maybe this is what I'll make the title of the video, The Great Revealing. There is definitely something, and this is not a new concept. I mean, I would say perhaps, probably over the course of the past 5 years or so, and keep that in mind. And this is, if you've been following my channel, I've been talking about very recently the significance of the past 5 years. Also, things happened, they happened in 2020, around December of 2020, playing a role in where we're at now. We are at a quarter point, actually, of a cycle that began in 2020, and we're going to be talking all about that in our report for today as well. But there's something about revelations, lessons, the great revealing. Okay, I think this is going to be a year where some type of significant revealing of information is happening, but more so than like the revealing of information, I feel like this is the type of information that we didn't know that we didn't know. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. It's not like, oh, we're just finding out something new. It's like, I think that the things that we're going to be finding out are going to be to the extent that we were totally unaware that we were unaware of whatever it is. So this is like a big time thing. Also remember, as we are beginning this report and entering this year, we're also going through a shift of ages right now. The kind of central focus of what I talk about on my channel, narrating the shift of the ages, looking at how what is happening for us on a day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year basis at this specific period of time is actually part of sort of our grand entrance into the age of Aquarius, aspects, transits that are going on now, reporting on them in the context of knowing that we're heading in that direction, and what role are they playing in anchoring these new frequencies to the planet by way of altering our personal energetic frequencies to reflect what is coming in. Okay, so this is a year, aside from that revelation aspect of things, where the balance of power is going to shift significantly, I do believe, in ways that we haven't seen probably honestly in like our modern recorded history. It's going to shift from the hands of the few to the hands of the many. This will be reflected in a multitude of varying ways, but one of the big ways that I think that we're going to see this is in terms of things like wealth, fame, status, influence becoming more based around authenticity, merit, skill, the ability to like think and communicate autonomously, as opposed to some like pre-selected or pre-curated persona that is like put forth by some industry for like that's making a lot of money, you know what I mean, like stuff like that, like bought and paid for influence by way of celebrity culture, celebrity worship, and stuff like that. I really think is going to break down this year, and it's going to be replaced, of course, by the rise of the podcast era. I think the concept, you guys, of these podcasts, that really is very much aligned with this incoming Aquarian energy. The age of Aquarius has a lot to do with the age of knowledge, self-knowledge, and also like communication, things going back and forth through the airways. So all of this like streaming content, like people being out here like teaching what they know, and as a result of the service that they're providing to all of the people learning from them, then receiving some type of value in exchange. Like that is the trajectory of things. Like that is the way that things are going to start trending long term. Of course, we have been experiencing this. This is nothing new. This has been a growing and emerging trend, but I think that 2025 is going to be the year where it sort of like tips the scales, and you know, the legacy media and like Hollywood and the mainstream media and the influence that has been held in those realms and domains finally becomes less of that, or less valuable than that of these independent creators that are beginning to rise to prominence, as that is where the like collective vibe shift is just generally leading us. This, of course, is going to have an interesting impact on like culture and society as we move through this shift. It is hard to say exactly what that will look like, but I do imagine that it will have some type of greater ripple effect that actually benefits us in some positive way and is a part of this like great revealing that's underway, or whatever just major period of like profound learning we go through that is also indicated in this. I think this transition, this power shift, this same idea is also going to be actually reflected in the fall of kings or royal lines, or like the ancient ruling bloodlines, or the legacies of power and elite status that have really been pulling the strings and the masters of reality going back a long time now, several hundred, maybe several thousand years. And the rise, actually, I think, of the self-actualized individual taking back power over essentially the creation of their own reality. Massive decentralization, really what I'm trying to say. Power from the hands of the few to the hands of the many. There is going to be a decentralization of power as actually people awaken to their own personal power, stop surrendering their power. And when power is not being surrendered and it's being utilized in sort of like a co-creative fashion with universe, there's nothing to control, you know what I mean, on the part of perhaps the old systems of power and control that had dominated our 3D reality planet up until this point in time. So I'm talking about a massive power shift that's underway, you guys, and it is a recognition of the power existing within us individually, the power of our minds, the power of ideas, the power of our thoughts, and the power of our ability actually to use our energy to create some type of outcome, maybe in ways that we hadn't thought to do before. Again, remember, we are going to be figuring things out and awakening to things that we didn't know, which really opens up so many different possibilities and potentials of like what we could come to find or how this energy can unfold. But I do know that the power is being returned to the individual. I also know, you know, we all know with great power comes great responsibility. So we're going to be taking back responsibility. Like there's going to need to be some also like inherent maturation process or accountability or just a recognition, reverence, and respect for some power that we're recognizing within ourselves, or again within our minds, that we are responsibly applying as we move forward throughout this period of time as a facet of how this power is transitioning from the centralized model that we have been experiencing throughout the past 2,000 years at least, to this more decentralized model of power that is coming and that we're moving towards right now. So it's going to be very interesting, the differing and evolving impacts that all of these themes are going to have as we move throughout the course of this year and further beyond that. But even just those two, you know, like the move away from influence by like wealth and celebrity to influence by what can I learn from you and how well can you communicate it, how well can I access your information and apply it to my own life in some productive way. You know, like that is where the value is going to be. Information as a form of currency is somehow going to be associated with the next 20 years and this greater 2,000 year age that we're moving into right now. And we may somehow begin to see like the foundation of what that's going to look like as we move forward through this year. There's probably going to be some fierce power struggles playing out there on some level all year long. People, things, situations, powerful forces coming head to head, face-offs, vying for dominance, vying for power. There could also be things from the past that we realize, you know, old addictions or attachments or like subconscious programming, even like secrets and stuff like that, things that we've been trying to hide, catching up with us in a way where we know that we need to do something about it and we need to like let it go. We need to find a way to release its grasp over us. That's a very powerful dimension of what's playing out this year as well. And also perhaps like the battle between the past and the future, like really yearning on one hand to move forward in a new direction, but still feeling somehow maybe chained to something from the past. These two forces coming up against one another, but knowing that ultimately we're going to have to let something go. Ultimately, now is the time to purge whatever that old attachment is. Like this is the time to transform and regenerate. This is if we know one thing, you guys, this year we can have faith in the fact that we are being karmically liberated from something that was attaching us to some underworld dimension of ourselves. There is some type of need to be released from some karmic cycle or some lesson that was associated with some karmic cycle that we've been going through, some form of toxicity, some fear, just some like underworld energy that has had power over us and caused us to surrender power to something that has been blocking our ability to grow somehow. That is definitely going to be released whether we want it to or not. We're having to make personal corrections. We're needing to correct a lot of our own behavior as we move through this period of time. You may become very aware as you move through the course of this year what you're doing wrong, where some of your own hangups are, where maybe you've been over identifying with your ego on some level, or where just some dimension of how you've been acting or how you've been behaving has been actually more self-sabotaging than functional in trying to get you where you want to get to. But 2025 is also, and I've been talking about this theme this past couple of months, it's a major year about corrections. Revisions, corrections, adjustments are underway anywhere where we have been doing things or making choices or decisions or conducting ourselves in a way that is not representative of actually where God, spirit, universe, higher power needs us to be for ourselves right now, in alignment with like our genuine soul path of evolution. we're getting back on that train, okay, one way or another. And again, that is where the destruction of the past vibe is coming through really strong right here as well. Like, it's gonna go, okay? Even if it's kicking and screaming, like, it's gonna go, because we have to get back on this proper course right now. Aquarian energy, Uranian energy, I say this all the time, like, it has to do with facilitating some higher cosmic purpose or cosmic plan to come to pass. Uranus is known as the galactic fixer, the great rectifier. It makes changes for us that we haven't been able to make for ourselves. Aquarius is also an energy about breaking through limitations to awaken to a higher potential, a higher purpose, a higher destiny. As we move through the next 20 years, like, it is going to be the destruction of anything that would be blocking authentic growth in alignment with that cosmic purpose. Like, you can pretty much put an exclamation point and a period on the end of that, and then go ahead and underline it and put it in bold, because that's just where we're at. And anything trying to fight against that it's going to suffer in this energy to the point of ultimately release and surrender to this new way the energy is coming in right now. There's going to be a major learning curve. We're probably going to be, again, going back to this concept of learning what's being revealed to us. We're going to be finding out a lot. We're going to be figuring out a lot. And there could literally be some battles that are playing out, especially, again, like, going back to these themes of the past and the future. Extremely evident, extremely indicated this year, almost maybe like a tug of war going on. But this is a critical turning point in the context of actually a 20-year cycle of growth that began back in 2020. We are at a quarter way point in that, and it is adding to the more critical nature of events that are playing out right now, not only in the context of like where we've been and what we've done that has brought us to where we're at in this moment, but also in the context of how what we're doing now, the changes that we're making now, the corrections that we're making now, the barriers that we're like breaking down now, the obstacles that we're overcoming, what we're enduring through, and the lessons that we're learning, how all of that is actually contributing to what is going to happen in the next 5 years or so, and really leading throughout the course of the next 15 years while we go through the rest of this 20-year cycle of growth that began in December of 2020, which I'll be talking about, tell you guys exactly what that is as we get to the end of the report. But the year 2020, just know there is a special relevance there and connection to this year. And also, interestingly enough, the year 2006 has a special reference and connection to this 2025 year as well. We are actually right now in the process of ending an 18-year nodal transit, which is sort of like a grand lesson, because the nodes of the moon take 18 years to go through the entire nodal energetic polarity, astrological accesses of the zodiac. They're always in an exact opposition and polarized signs to each other. The last time that we had the nodes where they are now, which is completing their transit of the sign of Aries, about to head into the sign of Pisces, that was 2006. Okay, so karmic lessons that began then may be concluding right now, and you may find some special relevance or significance in terms of the year 2006 and its connection to something going on within you, outside you, or around you as we move through the end of 2024 and into this 2025 year as well. I think there's going to be a lot of perspective and mindset shifts that take place over the course of 2025. This could also be something that is actually going on the day as we hit the midpoint of our week this week. Suddenly seeing things through a differing lens or a new perspective that shifts, expands, or just changes our mind about something somehow. And there's potential actually for this to have a very healing impact. Maybe we're going to be learning some things also about like how to heal, or like healing techniques or something, getting some ideas maybe about how to heal our bodies, minds, spirits, souls, something like that. There's a mental facilitation in regards to like how to heal, especially maybe some old wounds or things to do with like the inner child and stuff like that. But there's an emphasis on learning about healing health. Also, this could have to do with like money and finances and wealth and stuff like that, or just value generally. There could be a shift in perspective that changes our perception of value or worth that goes on throughout the course of this year as well. And this could be another thing leading or lending itself to the general, I would say overall kind of like life-changing impact that this year may have on many of us, how we see ourselves and how we experience life and reality generally. Remember, we are in a 20-year process right now based on that Jupiter Saturn conjunction that I was just talking about, that is actually like reestablishing our understanding of truth basically across the board somehow. And, you know, with that in mind, there's also likely to be kind of like an interesting emotional shift that goes on a more collective level throughout the course of, you know, the day, but also maybe the year. We are, aside from the way that the power dynamic of things I perceive to be shifting, there's also that same idea or concept being reflected by the collective emotional body. And I'm saying that because the moon is actually going to be transiting through the last couple of degrees of Capricorn, making a conjunction to Pluto and transiting through the first few degrees of Aquarius throughout the day on January 1st. That exact trajectory right there, that is describing the shift of power that has been underway and that is, you know, moving us towards the more predominant Aquarian energy and this decentralized energy dynamic that is coming in right now. So I find it to be like beyond synchronistic, really, that the moon would be in that exact location for the first day, the blueprint energetically of our calendar year this year, letting us know like there will be some type of collective response to this greater power shift that's underway in a way that is totally aligned with the new direction things are going. We are likely to start the year still sort of under the emotional sway of the power hierarchies and the control systems and the rules and the regulations and the authority and stuff like that. But there's going to, as the moon transits through Capricorn, it comes into early Aquarius, hits Pluto, there's going to be likely some type of powerful event or something that might cause some type of emotional transformation or release or just massive overhaul on some level that really causes us to shift collectively the way that our like emotional body is working towards an system that is more decentralized, like to embrace the more decentralized angle of things. So again, it's like we are moving not only in terms of the way that the power dynamics here on Earth are operating from systems that favor the centralized model and like power being held in the hands of the few and the power and control systems and hierarchies, to this decentralized model of power that, you know, where energy and intention is cultivated through the individual and shared in a more collective way. This is also being reflected by the placement of the moon, which is indicating the collective emotional body being in a resonance or being in alignment with that shift and with that transition. So the desire to control or to be controlled, and that being a place or a source of actually like internal emotional comfort, is going to be replaced by actually somehow finding more comfort in the freedom or the unknown or the novelty. It's like, for some reason, we sort of come to a point where the unknown is actually a greater source of, or the changes that we know that are taking place, even though we may not have a full understanding or be able to like see the full picture of where they're actually going to, like that process of change being a greater source of actually comfort than perhaps stagnancy, things staying how they've always been and things remaining the same. So that will be interesting also to see like how that trends. And again, this is like just kind of the collective trend, because this is, I'm saying this because of the position and the transit of the moon during this period of time. It's like the common vibe. It's just like inherently, intrinsically happening. No one is telling us to feel this way or like conducting this. There's no like campaign behind it or anything. It's just organically happening. It's just the vibe. And this is, I think, also sort of a feature of the greater restructuring of reality that's playing out over this 20-year span between 2020 and 2040 as well. This may also be the year, and I think I mentioned this earlier, of taking some personal accountability, fixing some things about our own selves, like once and for all, like coming to a point where we stop being in denial maybe about some of like our legitimate own issues, kind of maybe take a good look at ourselves, see where we've been being our own worst enemy, cloaked as like our own biggest cheerleader or whatever, and like getting real with ourselves about some stuff, so that we can actually like get out of our own way and stop sabotaging our own progress that universe is trying to bring us right now. That is another thing. Like, I think that from this point forward, you know, it may really be kind of a common experience this year. We're going to begin to learn to trust ourselves more as a human collective. And that's a facet, you know, of this whole like self-empowerment, self-actualization phase that humanity is going to go through as a result of the age of Aquarius and this next 20-year Pluto Aquarius generation as well. We're going to start to learn to trust ourselves a lot more. And it's going to be through probably a lot of these like tower moments and this Uranian energy that starts coming in and these shakeups that start to happen. You know how I was just talking about the emotional shift that is likely to go on, where we somehow begin to find comfort in the unknown somehow? This could be because whatever experiences we go through over the course of this year and these next like upcoming years right now, this, you know, era of our lives that we're moving through, it could show us through, you know, being in these situations where it seems like everything's falling apart, and then like, you know, going through this whole anxiety and this panic, and then oh, miraculously everything falls into place, and like, oh, we could have trusted the process the whole time. We really had nothing to worry about. And then, you know, finding ourselves yet again going through some type of shakeup, and then, you know, starting to get all worried again, but like that little voice in the back being like, you know, maybe we shouldn't worry this time. Maybe because of how things went last time, things will just kind of fall into place, and it's not really something that we need to freak out about, but like we still freak out about it. And then, oh, lo and behold, things just seemingly fall into place somehow, and we're like, oh, I like really didn't need to like take that so far. And then something else happens, some other shakeup happens, and we like start to get really worried, but all of a sudden like we realize that it's kind of being countered by this energy that's like, but this actually could be a good thing. Like maybe we shouldn't have this massive freak out. Like maybe we should be a little bit excited about like what this could actually be leading to. And then lo and behold, it actually like comes to pass, and it turns out to be like this thing that was really good and we didn't anticipate, and we're just like, oh. So then, you know, something else happens, but like by this point, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's like the more we go through it and the more that we realize that even though that lightning just struck the tower, there's actually this safety net underneath. And even when the safety net is removed, we're standing on like an even better ground than where we were before we like went through that free fall, you know, to the point where we actually begin to like trust the free fall, because we know that if we just kind of like go with the flow, keep doing what we're supposed to be doing, you know, following the protocol, doing our work, like moving towards whatever universe is compelling us to like get in alignment with right now, that like everything is going to fall into place in a better way than we could have anticipated. And ultimately at the end of the day, this is like the picture of faith, right? So I think, and as like a facet of this great awakening that we're going through, and of this conscious expansion or conscious awakening, or just like reorientation in our own conscious awareness somehow, I do think that our personal interactions with universe are going to begin to become greater and just like more tangible, to the extent that we begin to trust, even in the chaos, that it's leading us to something right somehow. So I don't know, that could be how that emotional like transition with the moon in there, like I was talking earlier, and coming from, you know, comfort in the controlled, in the regulated, you know, when we feel like we kind of are being watched over and we have like authority and experts and like this, that, and the other to secure us and protect us and tell us what to do, like gaining our sense of security from internally from that, as opposed to gaining our sense of security from being out there on a whim, and knowing though, like through this enhanced level of faith and connection to the universe, that even though all may seem uncertain and unstable on the surface, we're actually in the process of aligning with a path that has proven to be supporting our well-being and like growth all along the way. So I don't know, I just think that that could be the direction that things head throughout the course of this year as well. 2025 definitely seems to be another year, as 2024 was, of important corrections for the purpose of essentially like removing blockages to growth. That has been a theme for a while now, going again back to like 2019, 2020, when Uranus began the transit through the sign of Taurus. Awakening to and removing blockages to authentic growth and potential has been an unfolding and emerging theme since that point of time, that really, I think, is likely to become very evident as we move through the 2025 year in a way, ultimately, again, that is life-changing and paradigm redefining somehow. What we learn, what we discover, what we become aware of, and how we change personally throughout the course of this year has a very significant impact on the way that events come together actually over the course of this next 20 years. Again, we are at that critical point, and that is because of the connection between Jupiter and Saturn while we have our New Year's Day energy present, okay? There could be a lack of stability, as I was mentioning earlier. This is likely to be a very like unstable year materially and also relationally. Relationships, finances, comfort, or traditional comfort zones, resources, assets, supplies, things to do with food, material possessions, also things to do with art or the arts, music industries, fashion industries, beauty industries, also things to do with money, value, and worth, or the balance of peace, justice, deals, negotiations, alliances, partnerships, undergoing some type of sudden, unexpected changes, exposures, upsets. We've got a lot of Venus-Uranus connections going on, square between the two, harsh aspects, mutual reception. The Venusian energy is likely to be where, or kind of like an epicenter of a lot of the shakeups and the sort of like shifting foundations and upsets that are going on over this period of time as well. But remember, Uranus is the galactic fixer. Uranus is a great rectifier. This is about restoring authentic value, removing blockages to authentic growth, and actually like supporting authentic potential to be birthed, nurtured, cultivated, and like grow into some form of tangible abundance. Things currently also, and people and situations that are together or that are united, that are not like on the same resonance, that are not like on a frequency level, a balanced match anymore, things that are out of authentic alignment, and also things operating under any type of false pretense, pretending to be something that they're not, false images, facades. These are going to go through a breakdown process over this year as well. I do think this is another year, as was last year, about the death of the facade and karmic detachment from false appearances. And the more that we try to hold on to those things, and again, like any type of toxic attachment or false appearance, the more that we like try to stay attached, the more we're going to be interfacing with our own version of hell, I think, as we move through this year as well. Honestly, also, I need to say it could be the year where it all sort of blows up. Apply that anyway, metaphorically, literally, I don't know. But if that is the case, we can also rest assured that it is a necessary, like that's the necessary transition. Like that's the way it had to go to provide the force necessary to shake things loose, or to teach the lesson that had to be realized, absorbed, arrived at, gained an awareness of, integrated at this period of time in order to like make certain things happen. Remember, we're at like a destiny activating phase as this New Year's Day energy is coming in, which leads me to believe, the year of 2025 holds a greater than perhaps average level of energetic significance in terms of the future potentials that are to come to pass. And, once again, we are arriving back at the grand theme, I would say, of this year, which essentially is lessons. The lessons that we've learned, the lessons that we're learning, the wisdom that we've gained through the lessons that we've learned, and how that is ultimately changing the way that we are viewing and perceiving ourselves and interacting with the reality moving forward. Things are probably going to happen rapidly, though. There's also indication for that, and they're probably going to spread. There's a huge level, again, of like this unexpected situation that comes out of nowhere that could be kind of like crisis oriented on some level, but that ultimately does lead to some necessary transformation or transition that puts us in a better place somehow. I'd say also like air-based combat, eyes on the skies, power being displayed in the air. This is where the realms of the air, the ether, the heavens, I don't know, like this is where the action is most likely to happen this year, even perhaps in some type of simulated way. The idea of simulations, things that appear real but perhaps aren't necessarily real, as a mechanism for trying to maintain some level of control, or this back and forth between the past and future, like the battle that's going on maybe between the past and the future, that could also be something that we witness play out this year. My recommendation, you guys, is a healthy level or a healthy balance of both paranoia and skepticism. I think both of those in equal measure are to an extent warranted as we move through the 2025 year, but we do need to all do our best to sort of broaden our scope of reference and information and what we perceive could possibly be possible. I think it's a year where we should strive to nurture and cultivate some level of self-mastery within somehow that's also being indicated. And like I said in my last video, if ever, you guys, I feel like we're at the point where universe is kind of asking us to fortify ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, materially, to the best of our ability, and prepare for a year of epic change that is incoming. We may be facing a journey through the unknown, but we're going to feel a lot more confident in ourselves and in our ability to, do what needs to be done as we move through this time of, radical or dynamic or epic change, if we feel like we have prepared for this, if we are ready and expecting or anticipating that there's probably going to be some type of changes that we're moving through. I do think that we need to train ourselves, body, mind, and spirit, get in the best shape that we can, take really good care of your physical body, also your mind, grow your mind, expand your mind, open to new perspectives, look at every angle, be very observant, enhance your learn new things, learn new skills. This is a really good energy with Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, which we've had going on for quite a while now, to expand our talent stack, expand our just purview of knowledge generally, learn maybe a little bit about a lot of things, or learn a lot about a particular area of interest that could be very beneficial in the long run somehow. And also, of course, on the spiritual level, as we move through this period of time, surrendering the burden to the divine with the trust that actually things are moving us in the right direction, especially if we are moving with honor, moving with integrity, standing in authenticity, not being critical of others, right? Not being toxic and all attached to our own shadow nature, and getting triggered and stuff all the time, really working to heal and release our old wounds, not being afraid to look at ourselves perhaps more critically and make positive improvements. Anything that we can do to better ourselves in any way or any capacity is going to align us with just a better experience going forward. No matter what that experience is, we're going to feel more confident. We're going to know how to interface with whatever situations could be coming up better. If we are just like, it's just something that I feel like is a strong message right now. We should be like putting in the effort to prepare ourselves on some level, not for catastrophe or anything like that, but you know, this period of time that we're moving through right now, also, it's all about leading through example. This is not, and here's another thing that I should add before I get into the breakdown of the transits and aspects and symbolism and, you know, how I use that to come up with this report. But this is not an energy or a year that is going to favor control through force. The more we try to force things to happen in this energy, the less likely they are to get the outcome that we are seeking to achieve in the scenario. The way that we get outcomes in this new energy and, you know, moving forward through this year, through the next 20 years, it's going to be through leading through example and through inspiring through example as well. And we'll be talking much more about that as, of course, we move forward with the astrology from this point and going forward. So you guys, that's essentially what I have to say about how I feel like this whole year is likely to play out. That is also could be just like generally major themes that are ongoing throughout the course of this day and this week as a microcosm of the year that we are moving into right now. Let's transition now, and I want to tell you guys briefly the transits that we have present, the symbolism that we have present, and you'll be able to see where I was able to kind of like extract and piece together this analysis from the data that is present on our New Year's Day today. So first of all, I want to say that we have the sun at 11 degrees of the sign of Capricorn when January 1st hits this year. That would be the 12th degree in terms of the Sabian symbol placement. Whenever we are reading the Sabian symbols or the symbolism associated with any degree placement, we round up a degree. We read the wave of energy that is incoming and that is beginning to manifest, not the energy that is like waning out and dissipating. So when we have a planet lining up at 11 degrees and something minutes of the sign of Capricorn, which is where we have the sun today, we are going to be reading the Sabian symbol of 12 degrees of Capricorn, and that Sabian symbol is a student of nature lecturing, revealing little known aspects of life. So before we even look at the layout of the planets, the position of the sun today is telling us that, you know, the student of nature lecturing, revealing little known aspects of life, we could be finding out throughout the course of this year, there could be something revealed to us that is indicating things that we didn't even know about the nature of reality around us. Okay, so for that specific symbol to be coming in the context of these other aspects that we've been talking about in the videos day by day, and that we're going to be talking about in terms of this chart right here, I feel like that's giving quite a specific message. We also have the position of the earth, the position of what's happening on the ground, always in an opposition to the sun. 12 degrees of Cancer, a Chinese woman nursing a baby whose aura reveals him to be the reincarnation of a great teacher. So we have the word reveal specifically verbatim in both the position of the sun and the position of the earth as we have our New Year's Day energy coming in. On one hand, we're talking about little known aspects of reality being revealed. On the other hand, we're talking about the birth of the master within and what do we need to do to nurture and nourish that as we move throughout the course of this year as well. Now, on that note of the mother, the moon, as I mentioned earlier, is in a quite specific placement for our New Year's Day chart. Of course, this chart, I'm looking for the 12 at the 12 a.m. Eastern chart. That's the one that I have up here. And at that point in time, the moon is in the sign of Capricorn. But as we move through the day, which leads me to believe like this is the nature of things as we move through the year, the moon leaves the sign of Capricorn, like I talked about, makes a conjunction to Pluto, enters the sign of Aquarius. This to me is energetically referencing the shift in collective energy from the more centralized model to the more decentralized collective energy model, reflecting the greater power shifts underway right now that are referencing those very same themes. So I feel like that is quite significant. Now, another major element of the chart, the transits, and my interpretation of this energy is Pluto in exact opposition with Mars, that also happens to be exactly trine both the north and the south nodes of the moon. I talked about this in my last video. This is really like holding a lot of significance to me right now. This specific transit is really explaining the confrontational nature of energy generally right now, as sort of like two very dominant, powerful forces come head to head, one relating to the past, what we're letting go of, what's being released, the other relating to the future, and also corrections that need to be made in order to move forward according to that new future path. What is driving progress? What is holding us back? The tug of war between the two, what needs to be purged, released, and transformed in order so that we can be unleashed essentially to go in this new direction. What blockages to growth need to be overcome? This is being explained not only by the opposition that we have going on between Mars and Pluto, Pluto exactly trining the south node with the moon there, remember, on New Year's Day. This is some type of an emotional release from past connections to, again, anything that was lacking in authenticity, maintaining a facade, just doesn't vibe with us anymore. This is also shifting preferences, desires, and values. Anything like toxic that we were attached to, or that was detaching us from our own sense of personal self-empowerment, or holding us back, or acting as a blockage to personal growth in some type of way, this is going to go, I'm telling you, as we move through this year. And on the flip side of that, Mars, an exact trine to the north node in the sign of Aries, about to finish that entire 1.5 year long transit of the north node through the sign of Aries. What like final corrections to ourselves? What changes do we need to make? What alterations? What do we need to do differently? What do we need to overcome? How do we need to shift our perspective, how we're using our energy, or what we're creating with our energy in order to truly be freed to move forward in this new direction? Mars is retrograding right now. We also have Jupiter retrograding right now. We've got Uranus retrograding right now. There is a majorly corrective influence for good. The changes that are happening now, the corrections that we're making now, this is setting us up for success. That's why I was saying earlier, like, don't be afraid to look at yourself, you know, and really kind of take it apart and see where your own, you know, flaws in the system, kinks in the machine are, and what needs to be fixed and changed right now. There's never been a better time for fixing ourselves in a way that is going to lead to some type of lasting self-improvement and successful outcomes. So that's a very good way to use this energy, very good way to use this year. With Pluto and the moon and the south node in a trine in air signs, this is a powerful time of karmic release, that can be sure, and it is going to transform the way that we are thinking about things. On that note, it's interesting because Mercury is at 21 degrees of Sagittarius. That Sabian symbol is a child and a dog with borrowed eyeglasses. Again, talking about shifting perspective, seeing things from a different lens, like looking at things perhaps from a radically different angle or viewpoint than we are used to. And then we've got this air sign trine also going on between Pluto, purge, transformation, release, the south node, karma, release, what we need to let go of, what we're moving on from, and also the moon. This is our emotions, and it's in the air signs, an emotional mental release from subconscious programming. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is deep. Sorry, there's a basketball parent group text that's going off right now, just started, so that's all those notifications are about, and there's probably going to be more, so I apologize for that. It just is happening. But the nature of that aspect, it's going to probably change some things for us also in the way that we're looking at things, and again, in the way that we are feeling about things throughout the course of this year. Don't be surprised if you end the year in a radically different place internally than you were at, okay, when you started this year. And it's going to be for the better, I think. Mars trining the North Node, as I said, this is personal changes, the changes that we are making right now with Mars Mars retrograde, the corrections to self, driving progress, driving growth, and they are what is putting things back on track to actually start moving in a better direction, moving forward, moving us back towards whatever this destiny or purpose, higher purpose is that universe is compelling us towards right now. That is another thing that is, I would say, a feature of the, as you know, and I talked about this earlier, a feature of the Aquarian energy generally. It drives towards higher purpose. It drives things, facilitates things, supports things to achieve a higher destiny. So when we're talking about making these self-improvements, taking our power back, it really is a part of this larger drive to achieve more, become more, understand more, and align more with the divine vision of who we could be and who we really are, and, you know, the highest possible evolutionary path of our soul in this lifetime. That is what energy wants to align us with. That is the path it wants to take us down for, you know, the remaining time now and moving forward that we have to experience it. Also, Jupiter squaring Saturn, of course, this is a major situation that we have going on right now that is really impacting a lot of the experiences, a lot of what is playing out, a lot of what is defining where we're at right now. This was a new cycle of essentially growth, expansion, and in the sign of 0 degrees of Aquarius, where this conjunction began, it really was kind of about like building a brand new and very different world over the course of this next 20 years. We have reached our first quarter square of that in alignment with the 2025 new year. That is one of the main reasons why 2020 is very relevant and very connected to what we've got going on in 2025. It's like things that happened in 2020, we are living the outcome of now, and things that are happening now, we will be living the outcome of come the opposition between Pluto, or between Saturn and Jupiter, that comes up in the next like 4 or 5 years or so. Whenever we have it's kind of like a grand cycle. It's a 20-year cycle. Saturn is the master builder. Jupiter is truth, growth, expansion, and success. When we've got these two energies coming together, it is a new foundation and essentially growth, experience, wisdom, truth, trust that we are gaining. 0 degrees of Aquarius, this is obviously associated with our transition into the age of Aquarius. Pluto just got done being at 0 degrees of Aquarius and holding down and empowering that degree and that dynamic and this aspect as well. And now we're hitting the first sort of like critical access point of that transit. There's 2 squares in opposition. So, you know, it starts in 2020, right around now, 2024, 2025, we hit the first quarter square, and then around 2030, we will hit the opposition, and then, you know, 2035, we'll hit the third quarter square, and then we will come back to the beginning and begin a new cycle that carries us through the next 20 years following that. But it's a big energy. It is obviously, you know, kind of like a generationally defining energy. It's kind of like defines certain eras of our lives. And right now it's indicating that we are building something very new and different, and we are probably going to see a more tangible emergence of that, considering that we are at this critical juncture in that process at this point in time as well. So restructuring our beliefs on reality and the way that things are going to lay themselves out, develop, and unfold as a result of that. We also have Chiron and Mercury in a fire trine that is very tight. Chiron's also opposed the black moon. We've been dealing with that. I think, as you know, I mentioned earlier, there's going to be an element of healing old wounds, releasing ourselves subconsciously based perhaps on some things that we are learning, and, you know, how that alters our viewpoint and perspective. Remember, Mercury at that degree, the child and the dog with borrowed eyeglasses, like we're seeing something with fresh eyes, maybe that is lightening the vibe a little bit, or just like helping us to release or move on from some things that maybe we've been working with for a really long time, or that have been just this self-sabotaging force that we haven't been able to overcome. This is probably the year that we're going to be able to do it. Venus and Uranus also in a square and also in a mutual reception. Don't forget also Jupiter in Gemini, that also expands our mind, broadens our perception, teaches us new things, adds versatility and just a bunch of new information to like our purview generally. And Mercury and Jupiter are also in a mutual reception with each other right now. Mercury's in Sagittarius, Jupiter is in Gemini. While neither of these planets especially love being in the signs that they're in right now, because they're in a mutual reception, meaning they're in each other's signs, there's a true fusion of the Mercury Jupiter blending energy. And Mercury is the mind, thoughts, ideas, communication, and Jupiter, of course, is expansion, wisdom, truth, growth. That is another energy that is expanding our mind and putting the emphasis and the highlight on what it is that we're learning and how our mind is growing and changing throughout this period of time and throughout the course of this next 2025 year, because this energy is present for the natal chart of our January 1st. So that is something as well. The Venus-Uranus square and mutual reception, that is responsible for the energy that I was indicating could be contributing to a bit of lack of stability in the realms of relationships, finances, value, worth, resources, projects, deals, agreements, the balance of peace generally. There could be some upsets to the status quo going on, to the comfort zone going on. We could feel like we get the rug pulled out under us. There could be some real tower moments that are playing themselves out, having to do with all the Venus type of stuff, love, money, business, also legal situations, peace generally. As I was saying, you know, Mars and Pluto in exact opposition for New Year's Day. Like, this is explosive. This could be like things literally, you know, blowing up. Keeping the peace could be a little bit of a challenge, I'd say, maybe as we move throughout the course of this year, but that's also being indicated by the South Node in the sign of Libra. Libra is the sign representing balance, representing peace, representing harmony, with the South Node there in a trine to the Moon and Pluto. Again, like, this is not supportive of maintaining the peace at the expense of growth, or of like doing what's right, or of like disregarding some truth. Okay, the lie or the image or the facade, or, you know, the false pretense, whatever it is, like, that is not going to be allowed to maintain and persist over the truth, even if it means like some shocking or disturbing upset of peace going on somehow. Okay, which, you know, could be quite possible with the way that these forces are clashing like this. In terms of other symbolism that we've got going on, Venus is at 25 degrees of Aquarius. That Sabian symbol is a tree felled and sawed for use in winter. That is, again, you know, this reference of preparation, preparing, fortifying our situation in maybe any way that we can. Jupiter is at 14 Gemini. That Sabian symbol is bridging physical space and social distinction. Two men sit in telepathic communication. I think that is going to be another kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, but maybe just more like common experience that begins to emerge this year and moving forward. I do think that there is something to be said for the nature of telepathic communication becoming something that is of greater significance, or just, you know, that is playing a bigger role, or we're interfacing with more, or something like that, moving forward into this stronger air sign Aquarian energy. We have Saturn at 15 degrees of Pisces, an officer drilling his men in a simulated attack. Because of Gemini, because of Jupiter and Saturn and square at these degrees, I don't know, like, it just seems like there could be like simulations going on that appear to be something that they're not, or that are not being spoken of, or that are not being communicated, or that are only like on like some type of like private need to know basis or something like that. I don't know, but that's an interesting degree for the placement of Saturn, especially for the Jupiter Saturn square that we've had underway. We have Uranus at 24 degrees of Taurus, the notorious degree about ruthlessness and vengeance and power, and perhaps being a bit out for blood. An Indian warrior riding fiercely, human scalps hanging from his belt. So, you know, there's that going on as well. And we've got Chiron at 19 degrees of Aries. That Sabian symbol is actually the magic carpet of Oriental imagery. So elevation, magic, ascension. I do feel like this is kind of where we're going, and where these lessons that we may be experiencing over this year are ultimately leading us, and like what they're teaching us, and you know, where we will find ourselves ultimately. I do think as we move through this energy, we'll be in a state of a greater recognition of the true magic of the reality that we live in. Again, like, it could be in like some way that we are perceiving by the time we get to the end of this year that we like didn't know that we didn't know was even going on. I don't know, but all that, you guys, like, that's a whole bunch of talking. Really, it's coming down to the fact that I think that this is going to be a year that we experience some life-changing mental shifts, and also the breakdown in centralized power and the emergence of these, just like decentralization generally. Like, things are going to go, I think, a lot more from like the more monopolistic structure and like the, you know, big business, big finance, like big industry domination of things like we've become so accustomed to. I think there's going to be a lot more just like individuals doing things that we would rather interact with or listen to or give our money to than, you know, the experts or the authorities or the industry leaders or the celebrities of the past. I think that's the direction things are headed. It's going to be represented and extrapolate out, I think, you know, ripple out through like all aspects of society, but it's going to also be centralized around power dynamics for sure. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking now. Let's get a synchronicity card. God, Spirit, Universe. What is a piece of information we should keep in mind as we move throughout the course of our day today, and as we move throughout the year generally? What is something that we should remind ourselves of? What do we need to know? Don't help too much. It says, these ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Luke 11:42. It is fine and good to help another, but do not leave undone the job of giving him the wisdom to become aware of the powers of his mind. Do not fail to teach him that with knowledge of the power of God, he will never do without a roof over his head, a meal, or any other thing that he desires when he learns to use the power of his mind. That is so crazy trippy. Like, that's what it's all about, right? Pluto, power in all of its forms, in the sign of Aquarius, this fixed air sign, all about our mental energy. It truly is like this year, this next 20 years with Pluto and Aquarius, this next paradigm that we're moving into, it really is all about the power of the mind. It's saying it right here. Help given too easily robs one of his self-respect. The best way to help another is to teach him to stand on his own 2 feet, leading through example. Teach another of God and the source of all supply. Then you will have given the best help possible. Teach him to look to God for help. So that's our advice as we move through this year, you guys. It's like that story, like, you don't give them the fish, you teach them how to fish. That is what we're doing. Like, humanity is waking up. The power dynamics are shifting. We're not going to be needing a ruling class to the same extent anymore. That is how this Aquarius Leo dynamic, I think, is going to kind of play out as we move through this period of time. We're not going to need the ruling class because we are awakening to our own power. And not only that, the ability and the discipline and the responsibility to actually handle it wisely and to be able to utilize and channel the power of our mind to co-create our reality, as opposed to a, you know, formerly ruling class who we'd surrendered our power to, being the creators and the designers and the architects of the reality, the masters of the reality for us. That's the transition. That's the shift. The card's talking about it as well. That's what I have to say today, you guys. And that's what's going on. So I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would enjoy this type of astrology content as well. Leave me comments. I am so grateful for your presence here. I really value knowing what's going on with you guys out there. If you are having experiences that line up with what I'm talking about in these videos, please let me know in my comment section below. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group linked in my description box below where you can find images of those boards. Come back with me on Friday, you guys. We've got more astrology to get into, of course. We're really getting this month of January started. I believe Venus is changing. We've got a of planet changing signs. There's going to be some vibe shifts going on this weekend. I'll be back to talk all about it. You don't want to miss it. You should be here too. I will see you next time, guys. Until then, Happy New Year. Have a beautiful January 1st. And until then, bye, guys.